Pricing is always hard. And it's always a tough point. One of our biggest shifts this year was sending clients contracts before they tour. I know sometimes that could be scary for clients to get a big contract with all the financials in it, and it could deter them from even wanting to show up. We're finding it actually has helped the conversation at the tours, and it actually streamlines the process of them signing. They're showing up after seeing the contract and they're excited. They're a little emotional and they typically sign right away.
Welcome to the Venue RX. On this show, we document and share best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues.
Joe, welcome to the Venue RX podcast. Thank you so much for being here today and talking about Bluebird Farm. I'm excited to hear a little bit more about it. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much. So happy to be a part of this.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun conversation. I'm excited. You guys have animals on your property, yeah?
Yeah, we sure do. I mean, we're a full functioning farm. Like, it's with all the whistle and bells attached. This wedding component wasn't the initial goal, but Eventually we got there.
Could you tell me more about that? Like, how did you get into the wedding industry, and maybe who were you personally and professionally prior to getting started in the industry?
Yeah, for sure. So, really the catalyst from having this wedding venue really started with just hosting a wedding for my sister. So, around 2017, we hosted her wedding. And it was total chaos. I'm not gonna lie, as far as pulling it together. But we pulled it through, and we had the photos thereafter and the videos, and it looked really nice. So that kind of started our curiosity into thinking about developing the property into a wedding venue site as well. Because prior to that, it was purely just farming and livestock and crops, and that was essentially it. So that was the initial start.
Were you doing something else professionally prior to kind of turning this into a venue? Like, were you working on the farm, or was it other stuff as well?
Yeah, so the origins of the actual property in 2015. And so on site, my parents do live there. And I came in just as an investor for real estate. That's kind of my main thing. But there's a lot of overlap with like the wedding venue industry and property ownership. So basically, that's how it started in 2015, just acquiring the property. And I was more or less as an investor, like I said. And then thereafter, it just kind of came to us after that first wedding for my sister. And from there, I've been more, because I live in New York City primarily, and they still live on the property. So I'm more of the like back end website marketing, contracting person, and they're more of the client facing, doing tours, on-site managers, all that kind of stuff.
Got it. So you got into this. You said your background or your main kind of focus is the real estate side of it, correct?
Yeah.
Did you previously have real estate investments and things like that before, or is that something you got into after?
Yeah. So we initially started with the same property, actually, doing just short-term rentals. So people usually call that Airbnb or VRBO and whatnot. So, when we started the property, we developed one section of our working barn into a loft space, and that became our first rental. Thereafter, we actually we built a treehouse actually on the property on site, and that was our second rental. So that was kind of our first steps. And then third came the wedding venue business that we're involved with now.
Got it. So that was in 2000. You said the wedding venue business really kind of kicked off the idea in 2017. When did you actually have your first non-family?
Yeah. So we had like a lot of bad luck because, I'll break down the story. So, within certain towns, in America, you need permits to do this, like to host these type of, farm venue events. And so it took us nearly 2 years to get the permit from the town. And it was by no means because we were slow in applying. It's just there was a number of meetings we had to attend and kind of, describe our goals. And we were new to town as far as the wedding venue. There's essentially no other competition in our town that we are hosting hosting weddings. So it took a while to get the permit. And as we got the permit, COVID hit. So we were really we were really excited come the end of 2019 to get our permit, because there was a lot of, effort and a lot of, investment involved. And then COVID happened, 2020. So it was a tough pill to swallow. But what we really did is we took that year to really focus on, our website, our SEO, our marketing, so that, when things let up, we were able to, work with our leads and clients and get them to sign on for the following seasons. So as far as the growth, 2020 was we had 2 weddings, and essentially they were free, because we just wanted to have a small amount of clientele that we could work with. So, and, photos and all, and, legitimacy. And then from there, just continue to grow and grow, where this season we're at 30 weddings. And, this is our first big summer. And we've learned a lot. And, next year we see hitting around that number again, because we do kind of structure it. So we do one wedding per weekend from spring to the fall. But
I was going to ask about your seasonality. What is it like? Because you're in Connecticut.
Yeah, we're in Connecticut, New England. Yep.
So what is it like? What's your wedding season there?
Yeah. So we typically start towards the tail end of April, early May. And just because the terrain, it can be a bit muddy, sluggish still in that springtime. And then we end typically right around, right after Halloween, early November. That's where our cutoff is. Our strategy right now is we try to host we call it a wedding weekend. So essentially our clients would have their wedding on a Saturday, but they would be able to arrive on Friday in the afternoon and stay up and through Sunday afternoon, which is going back to my point about our short-term rentals that are on site. It's a huge perk, because it's lodging for the couple and for their wedding party. Not to mention we have a number of lake houses in the area that we offer to family and friends.
Got it. Could you describe, for anyone who's listening on the podcast, not watching us here, what does the venue look like? If you're describing it to someone.
Yeah. So we are nestled in a little corner of North Eastern Connecticut, 40 acres, a lot of green and a lot of trees. And, we have a really nice valley type of terrain. So you kind of go over this big hill, and as you come down, you can just see the entire landscape of the farm property, the animals walking around, the sheep in the meadow. And then in the back distance, we have the actual rustic venue space, and adjacent to that are fire pits. And then we have the tree house next to that. So it's pretty secluded area. So we lucked out when we bought the property. So it's very peaceful and it's very private, and people enjoy it.
I noticed when I was on your website that animals tab, and so I had to click it because I was like, this has got to be cool. And you do, like you were mentioning in the beginning, you do have a lot of animals. It is a working farm. Does that lead its way into the weddings and into the events you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just an additional factor that sets us apart. People love visiting the animals, feeding them, all that kind of stuff throughout the wedding. It's a really it's just a really magical kind of environment, where it's a bygone era of farming and celebrating someone's love story. All those things come into it, and it's really nice. And the animals are kind of in the background the whole time. So it sets us apart in a special way.
Yeah. Hey there, thanks so much for watching or listening. I wanted to take a moment and share about Common Sense Events. Common Sense Events is my company that professionally manages and operates venues all across the United States, and we're looking to work with a couple more venues this year. If you own a venue in Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, North Carolina, we are looking to work with you. Our company comes in and takes care of the marketing, the sales, the operations. We hire all of the employees, we manage all the employees, and primarily our agreements are based off of revenue share models. So it's a very affordable way to have your venue professionally managed. And this is especially good if you're thinking about retiring, selling your venue, but maybe you don't want to sell the land, or you're looking for another management option than you currently have in place. If you're interested in this, please reach out by email at venues@cseventservices.com, or you can also click the link in the description of this video or podcast. We'd love to hear from you and look forward to seeing if there's a way for us to serve you. In terms of marketing and kind of where you're getting your clients from, you getting people who are getting married there who are in the local area, or most of people more destination type couples?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's split in many ways. I think our first few years, it was really local, and, you grow out from there. We really did partner with some good partnerships within the industry, such as Weavin and Zola, even Facebook groups that are local to the area. The leads kind of come from all over the place with us. We do have the luxury that, some of the rentals, especially our tree house, has gotten great media attention, not only just in the state of Connecticut, but nationally. So, that kind of, all those elements kind of just get you, to be visible, right? And to have people see you and be interested. So, we've had people from all over for our venue. The majority, like I said, are more local, within 2 to 3 hours drive of the venue. But, some people, it's a destination. Some people, they may have lived in the area. They're in LA and now they're coming back. And so it's all over the spectrum.
You mentioned Zola, and what was the other one? Weavin?
Weavin, yeah.
So what is that? Are they similar to Zola in terms of a platform?
Yeah. So, Weavin, I would say, is the most unique aspect to our entire operations, because it is enacting CRM. So, I tend to call it a venue management software, and that's essentially, the easiest way to remember it. It's a software that we use, but they also generate leads. So, we have, a profile on with that group, and, people can search and find us. And then from there, if we do convert them, all the signing of the contracts, payments are all through that platform. So it's a one-stop shop for us. Makes it, very easy to organize and generate leads. And Zola, it's relatively new that Zola has been doing lead generation, and there's a subscription fee, or there's a pay for credits per lead. That we found is working very well for us as well. Again, very similar to any kind of listing website. You have your site, your venue, your details, and people look at the calendar and they reach out to you if they're interested. Those are two major lead generators. And then we really have our social media with the word of mouth kind of traction that is always nice. But that's kind of how we're doing it right now. And it's been working very well.
In terms of what people get or what packages you have available, is it more of a blank canvas style venue, or is it an all-inclusive, or is there some hybrid there?
Yeah, so it's predominantly a blank canvas. We really are, we have the land, the structures, and you're free to, work with our suggested vendors, we call them. They're not required. Or, it could be even as simple as, do it yourself or bring your own kind of situation, where we try to make it, not too strict on the clients. We want there to be a lot of liberty. Our slogan is, your wedding, your way kind of thing. We want to make it very simple for you to onboard you and to make it comfortable. But our packages are there's a variety of different packages. It's essentially all based on guest count. So obviously, the higher the guest count, we have a max of 150. It's a certain price, all the way down to 50, 25 is our smaller groups.
What was it like creating that price point? How did you come across that price point?
Good question. It's a contentious question. It's tough. The pricing is very difficult, and we've changed our pricing and strategy a number of times. And I always joke with my family, like, I don't want to look at contracts again. And then 2 months later, I'm looking at contracts again. And, you know, the thing is, like, I find the best tip I have is just try to make it very simple. Like, but if it's $7,000, it's $7,000. If it's $10,000, you know, none of this, like, it's $7,000, but then there's this. You know what? It's such a headache. And I'm sure people who are, you know, yourself who manages and others have had the headaches of people saying, I didn't know I owed this much, or, you know, and that happens, right? It happens. I tend to take those calls for the group. But my point is, like, you know, for the industry, I mean, I'm relatively new, like, as of like 2020, but like I'm finding that a lot of the clientele just want you to be straight up. You know what I mean? They really want to know, like, what am I getting? How much is it? I don't want to know how, like, what I'm getting kinda and how much it could be, you know. You know, one of our biggest shifts this year was sending clients contracts before they tour. Which, you know, I know sometimes that could be scary for clients to get a big contract with all the financials in it, and it could deter them from even wanting to show up. We're finding it actually has helped the conversation at the tours, and it actually streamlines the process of them signing. Like I said, it's all digital for us. So it's, you know, if they're showing up after seeing the contract and they're excited, they're a little emotional and they typically sign right away. So, you know, in previous years we had, you know, given contracts after, and, you know, it wasn't efficient for our time or operations to do so. But yeah, so to answer your question, the pricing is always hard. It's and it's always a tough point.
What were some of the things that maybe if you would go back and kind of rearrange the order of operations and the order that you started things? I know there's some of that zoning stuff and permitting stuff you can't get around, or can't speed up maybe. But in terms of the order of how you did things, would you have started working with a CRM system earlier? Would you have marketed on a certain platform earlier? Like, what would some of those bits?
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, like I said, like, the origins for myself were in real estate and the short-term rental market, and it's so software heavy. And for a while with our wedding business, we didn't use, you know, a software. And, you know, I would say that's number one, right? Of course, like you said, you know, all your legals and liabilities, just have them in place, you know, have that, the permitting, have your, you know, the structure of your company, maybe LLC or what have you in place, all your banking, but absolutely getting some software, you know, having the papers and the Excel sheets upon Excel sheets. It just can get very chaotic as a business. We were relatively lucky though, like I said, because we worked with the Weave Group very early on. The origins of their name, I think, was like Mayflower. So it really helped that we had something like that. And we didn't even really know what a CRM was per se. But it's worked out. And I would say that's number one, like just, you know, and I know sometimes softwares can be scary for people, and, you know, they rely on the emails and, you know, maybe the Google Calendar and Excel sheets or I'm a paper and pen person, you know, it's really, we're coming to an age where, like, you know, it's very helpful to learn the softwares and how to do automation and integration and all that kind of stuff, which, you know, these CRMs can do for you, you know?
Yeah. I'm curious. So we've talked about a bit of marketing and like how you get people to the property. I thought that was very interesting how you send contracts before.
Yeah.
You get probably a much more realistic buyer. Like, they're not just coming and, you know, going to be tire kickers and just kind of tour and then ghost you. They're probably pretty interested. Like, if they're, even after they see the price and they're still showing up. So that was very cool. In terms of when you have weddings, like wedding day, what does the property look like? Who's there setting up to bring down? Like, what's the whole process like there?
Yeah. So, you know, we really have systemized our whole entire approach. So, like, we have like day before, day of, day after, and even day after, you know, checklists for all of our team. You know, we have certain like individuals who come on Fridays and Saturdays to help for setup for our clients. We also, with our packages, we offer parking. So those same individuals are parking attendants. The following day on Sunday is a shutdown, and we have other individuals come for cleaning. Midweek, usually we have our lawn care come and make sure that everything is really tight there as well. So, it's really on a weekly schedule, and that's goes back to the reason why we really try to stick to one per week, just because at this time, we're a small family company and we want to keep it that way right now. Although we've had some people that have been approaching us to try to change that, but we're trying to, really, really refine our operations. And, I was just on a call with one of my attorneys, and, he was just checking in, and he had a good question that I think a lot of people have to kind of have. And he's like, are you pacing yourself? You know what I mean? Are you overwhelmed? Because sometimes when your business starts growing, it can get to be a lot. And sometimes the small nuts and bolts and refinements that you need in your systems could get loose again, or could be forgotten. And then, it can get to be overwhelming. So yeah, that's big. That's big for us.
Do you think that with the way that you're pacing it, it's allowing you to kind of like iterate a little bit more thoroughly and try some things out in terms of what works for setup, what works for cleanup, invoicing, all those things?
Yeah, I mean, it makes the process better and better. Before this year, we were just kind of the last week was very chaotic, and there was what's happening again. And now there's a flow where there's certain checkpoints with our clients, so that we're aware of even when is their tent arriving, and so that come the week before, there was all hands on deck meeting with our family to talk about, okay, this is when the tent is being set up. This is when the caterer is showing up. All these things are already known, which just alleviates a lot of anxiety and stress when it comes to the clients showing up. Because, as great as the clients are, sometimes they need a little bit of support when, things start rocking and rolling. You know what I mean? They're overwhelmed. They probably have maybe some personal things with their family they're dealing with. And if you can step in, that, Charlie's barbecue is showing up at 2:00 and you're there to greet them, it helps them. So, we're really on top of just trying to know every aspect and time point so that we can just have someone there to step in.
Speaking of the time and kind of the flow of things and how they've gone, do you have any advice for how to pick vendors, or how you've maybe maintained a good, that suggested vendor list?
So here's the number one tip with suggested vendors, right? Or vendors you like. After they've come, email them, ask for a review on your Google page, because they'll give you a 5-star and you can trade and give one to them as well. So what we do is we speak with all the vendors beforehand, and then we have a more intimate conversation with them during the actual wedding, and we exchange all the information, contact information. We also go back on Mondays and have a debrief with the family, and we do discuss did we like this vendor, or was there issues with this vendor? So we have a rolling list of vendors that we prefer, what we call them suggested in our little world. And so, what we do is, we're doing that for the reasons of potentially doing a concierge service with our company, so that if we do have a client who really, doesn't want to blank canvas, but wants someone to kind of set it up for them, we'll have all the individuals that will work for them that we can trust. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You've mentioned family a couple of times, and I feel like that's very common, right? In the wedding venue industry, family property, family farm, ranch, things like that. Has it ever been difficult to work with family? And if so, how have you maybe overcome some of those communication issues that might arise?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that there's sometimes restriction. I mean, there's no escaping that, right? I think what we've learned is that this business has immensely brought us together as a family, closer than we ever thought. You know what I mean? And, there's some times where maybe we're talking about the business a little too much, but we have something that is ours as a family business, right? Everyone has a place in the business, right? It's also been significantly important for us to learn patience, and who better to learn patience with your own family. So when we have Thanksgiving, it's nice. When it's Christmas, it's nice. We actually just took a trip to Maine as a family And, it was a great trip. And, yeah, there were some discussions here and there, some jokes and gossiping a little bit of some of the wedding stuff, which is all fun and part of it. You know what I mean? So, and like I said, like we're very structured, like Mondays, every Monday, 7:00, we're all on a call with everyone, and we're all talking about, plans for the weekend for the company and making sure everyone's ready. So yeah, we handle it well, but there are moments, but we work through them.
Totally. It sounds like maybe some of that structure helps provide accountability and a forum for everyone to voice maybe something they're concerned about or whatever. And so you can handle it at that call, and it doesn't have to bleed out into the rest of the week.
Right. And, it's really important for us to just be transparent and voice what we're thinking, because like it's important. Right. And what happens is it protects us from, our clients having to deal maybe with our own, family things, because like we already worked them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I find sometimes clients can really exploit the cracks, that they find. Like if someone promised something and then someone else promised something else, it's really easy to say, well, we heard about this from over here. And like, there's some triangulation that could happen. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, two people inside the company or inside the family are now kind of sort of arguing against each other because of the catalyst.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've encountered that sometimes, like, oh, Joe, you said this, but oh, your mom said this, or your sister said, we have definitely had that, and sometimes it can be frustrating. But, we have we've experienced that. And so, what we do is we have a policy where like, if someone does say that, we just tell the client, hey, let me speak with them before we move forward. And then we just discuss it. Like I was on a call today, and because we had a client, we were emailing them about their past due invoice. And, my sister asked, hey, what did you say to them like 2 weeks ago on the phone? Because I don't want to say something different. And like, that's a great example of like, in previous, she may have answered something and with all good intentions, but didn't really fully know what I had said. And I feel like that's common in the wedding business, regardless of if it's with your family or whoever. There's always this is what I said, or this is what they said. My biggest one is we didn't read the contract. That's the big one I hear a lot. And I go, well, let's read it. Maybe we should do that.
Yeah. Maybe we can go through it with you. Talk to me about the Airbnb VRBO side of things, and how do the weddings, I know you said that sometimes people can stay, but let's hack that a little bit more. How did you get into that? Well, I guess sounds like the weddings came after, but like, how do you connect those two?
Yeah. So, as far as the on-site properties go, they are looped into our like weekend package. So we have like a platinum package, and basically it gives you exclusivity of property from, noon on Friday till noon on Sunday. And that includes the opportunity to sleep over on the Friday and Saturday night. And so, typically, that's a huge factor for our clients, because from an operational standpoint, it benefits them, right? Because they're able to sleep there, wake up, set up, everyth's there. There's no, I forgot something an hour away or across the country away that I need, you know what I mean? So we really, when we tour and when we speak with our clientele, they're excited about that. And we do discount significantly the pricing for our rentals for the clients compared to what they would be on the short-term market. So that's how that works. And then, we do have offsite properties. We call them lakeside or lakefront properties because they're all in lake. They're all within 5-minute walking distance of a lake. So those are another feature that, helps with, planning for the families and the friends, because, they can make a weekend of it. They can make a week of it, and we've had even some of our clients who, they said, I want to rent one of your houses after for my honeymoon. Okay, great. You know what I mean? We find out like the more pieces you can kind of give to people, and the less they have to like, think about and or decide about for that matter, they're all about it. So yeah, that's a huge factor for getting clients to work with us.
Yeah, because you're solving as many problems for them as possible.
Hey there, pardon the interruption. I wanted to share with you about WEVA. WEVA stands for Wedding and Event Venue Association, and it's a brand new association just for venue owners and operators that we launched last year. It's been growing quickly since then, and we would love to offer an invitation to you to be a part of it. WEVA is an association that is purpose-built for venue owners and operators to provide community, education, and networking opportunities just for our industry. We have a number of different resources, including networking, co-working events, local meetups, and all sorts of different things. We will be having a large yearly event as well. We would love to have you part of the community, so please consider joining. We do have a link in the description below, or we will be linking it wherever you're listening to this. So please click on the link, check it out, and we would love to see you inside of WEVA.
Right.
Yeah. In terms of alcohol or security or insurance or some of these things that oftentimes could be headaches, for people, how are you handling those? Let's kind of maybe take them one issue at a time. What about alcohol?
Yeah. So my biggest tip, everyone, is to take the TIPS certification course. And I, in previous years have been a bartender, have a license to do all that stuff. And what I found was most beneficial when I took those courses, and I still take them when my certification is expiring, is that it goes through the legals, right? The and liability of alcohol consumption and distribution. It's a tough discussion. It seems to come up with every client. For us, we require that if the clients are providing alcohol to their guests, they cannot serve it, and they have to have a tip certified bartender. And some people may do other things where they just, outsource to a company, and they come and they, buy from them and they distribute the company. We're very, very firm on this, and it's the firmest rule we have. I will admit there has been some tense conversations with certain clientele where they think that they should not have to have a bartender if they choose for a more like BYOB style kind of event. But we require it and we enforce it. It's just one of those things where I laugh sometimes, and I've had this discussion so many times with my family, because the way that we structure it, where you have to have a tip certified bartender and you need a day of event policy with liquor attached to it, it's all for the benefit of the actual clients, so that if their friend, their uncle does something and gets hurt, they're not liable. But sometimes they kind of kick and scream and disagree with me and say, you have insurance, and we're doing BYOB, like we don't need a bartender. And I just stress them, like, guys, like I'm trying to protect you more than actually me in this case. And sometimes I, depending on how intense it gets, those conversations, I'm like, I just say, like, you have to do it. That's just like, there's no break here on this one.
And most people don't realize it, but in the contract, many venue contracts are basically writing themselves a blank check on behalf of the client in case anything goes wrong. There's stuff broken, damaged, and I think clients kind of maybe think about that and say, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, we'll fix that. But like, do you have $50,000 laying around? Like if something serious were to happen? Maybe not.
The one gray area that it's something, that I actually had about a month ago or so, I discussed this with another venue owner. It's regardless if everything is all set and the clients get their, liability insurance, they have their tip certified person. If something does happen, it still reflects poorly on you as a venue, which means you have to be watchful, right? So for our group, we do have, hourly kind of walkthroughs once we get towards, the nighttime, just to make sure and be watchful. Also watchful of the bartenders too, because, you have to make sure that they're being responsible. It's one of the buzzkill kind of aspects of the job, but it's crucial, for everyone. But yeah, it's a hard thing, and I think sometimes there's an assumption that the venue, since it's the site, it's all your problem, kind of, if something happens. And like you just mentioned, within the contract, it's most people's contracts, so they should. It basically puts puts onus and responsibility on the client.
Yeah. How do you handle the alcohol service at the wedding versus, and sounds like separately than you do anything overnight? Because if people are staying overnight on the property, they're renting it from, stay there Friday night, Saturday night, someone's popping open a beer or something like that. That's, there's no bartender there for that. On wedding day, how do you differentiate? How do you explain to the clients kind of what the needs are?
Right. So we really, really hold strongly to the laws of distribution, right? So what that means essentially, there's a lot, this, I don't want to get too nitty gritty on this, but like we can do it because it's helpful for people to know, like with a lot of laws. And as far as I understand, I'm not a lawyer, no disclosure, talk to lawyers, don't talk to me. I'm just some guy. But a lot of times it works is who buys it. That's number one, right? Whoever buys it's responsible. Whoever credit card, cash, receipt is attached is the person who's responsible. Now, next, it's based off distribution. Okay. So if I buy some drinks and I pass them to you to pass off as a bartender and you start passing them off, you are now the responsible party because the distribution is secondary to the purchase. Right. So, if you want to get very strict, yeah. I mean, if you went to someone's house for dinner, you should probably bring the person who's hosting the dinner should ask you to bring your own alcohol and they shouldn't touch it if you want to get that strict. Now, do people do that? No, they usually like offer to their friends as far as law goes, as far as my understanding, they're a purchaser and distributor, so they are liable.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think here in California, I think probably California and New York, like there are different states, probably Connecticut's one of those that have more intense laws around some of those things.
Yeah.
And here it's very similar. For us, it follows the purchase. So like who bought the alcohol, and that's where the licenses have to be had, or like there's some insurance coverages that need to happen. But distribution's huge. And I don't think people like fully think through that. And it is funny, like once you dive into it, go ahead.
It's like we had it wasn't a wedding, it was more of a farm to table event. But just for the point of this conversation, that individual was selling tickets to her event, right? And part of the ticket purchase was a meal and an open bar. So it was really tough because we couldn't permit it. Because the problem is I was like, you're actually selling the alcohol through your ticket. And it's like, well, I'm not actually touching it. It's like, it doesn't matter because you're taking funds from a guest of yours, putting it in your hands and buying it. And you know what I mean? It's hard, like at the end of the day with that stuff. And as for all those things, like I remember when I was taking tip certification a couple of years ago, the professor or teacher, what have you, essentially said 99% of the time, nothing's going to happen, but it's just that 1% of the time that could really ruin someone's life, ruin your business. And so you have to be, smart about it.
Yeah. This is not something that I've talked about before on the show, but just something I know is true in our local area. If you are doing a tour, you're doing a wedding tour, let's say, and you want to have some sort of hospitality package or something like that. I know a lot of times hair salons, maybe even barbershops will do this where they'll have a case of beer or whatever, a cooler full of beer, or some champagne or whatever. You go there, you're getting your hair done, and then they're offering you alcohol. Well, even though you technically are not paying for the alcohol, you're paying for the haircut, and it's seen as there's some technical phrase for it, but essentially a lubricant for the sale. So like you're enhancing the sale by the alcohol, and technically you're supposed to have a license for that. Now again, 99.99% of the time, there would be no issue. Nothing would, you wouldn't get caught or anything like that. But again, if you're offering the alcohol and then there's a sale point attached to it, even though it's not directly buying the alcohol, but you're purchasing something associated with the alcohol, that is like a gray area that
I always joke with our clients. Are like, so like, what's the best way to handle? I'm like, no booze, you don't lose. So that's the best number one. Number two, and we go down through all the legal aspects of it. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's a tough one for people with that. There's a common feeling that, like we can just give a friend some drinks. It's not a big deal. And it's hard, but It's one of those things where we try to discuss it early and reinforce it and get those liability and tips certified bartenders in place early on, so that as we get towards the wedding date, where things can get very tense and there's a lot of anxiety, emotions, there's not a backlash of this is ridiculous.
Yeah. What you mentioned insurance that you have the couple get that includes a alcohol or liquor policy. Could you break that down a little bit more? Do you use a certain vendor for that? Is something like, how do you do that?
Yeah, we just work with one group, and we just basically, it's like a hyperlink that we have with a partnership with this company, and our clients typically do it. They're not required to use our company. There's a number of companies out there. You can do any Google search and put day of wedding event, liability insurance. You'll find a whole bunch. You know what I mean? So, we just require that. It's pretty easy.
Is there, if you don't feel comfortable sharing totally open, but I mean, this is definitely a resource for people as well. Is it Event Helper by any chance?
I'm just going to pop it up real quick. Let's see.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know there's Event Helper. There's some different ones. I know even.
Yeah, we have Eventured.
Eventured. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we're using. That's what we're using right now. Yeah.
Eventured, like insured. Very cool. Cool. Something to check out. I've never heard of them.
So yeah, a lot of these groups like Eventured, they'll basically create like, a landing page, right? A website with your logo, and your clients are just directed there, and they kind of go through the process of how many guests you have, are you going to have liquor, all that kind of stuff. And we get a small like affiliate, fee if our clients use them. Not much, but yeah, that's what we use.
Cool. That's awesome. Last question I have before there's two final questions I ask everyone. What's your least favorite and most favorite part? But the last regular question that I have is, in terms of how you see yourself growing over the next, couple of years, have you seen bookings slowing down? Do you think things are speeding up? Have you been impacted at all by the economy? Kind of cover some of those topics for me.
Yeah. So there's a lot of questions in one question, but
yeah.
But we so for us, like our biggest goal for the end of this year, 2023, is obviously getting through one of our more fuller seasons. It's been exciting, but really refining our process. I cannot stress that enough. You know what I mean? And just making sure that we can have confidence in training new individuals to support us, and all that kind of good stuff. And so as far as like the industry itself, I think there's no secret that there's been a bit of a slowdown with conversion. I think that there's a lot of people that are definitely being affected by the economy. Let's be honest that, a wedding is a luxury. It's not a necessity. It's a big party, and it's fun, and it's great, and it's important, and it's magical, but it's very expensive. We'll see how it pans out. I can foresee potentially smaller weddings happening, more of that micro kind of wedding, theory, which, might change the way in which we do our operations, right? We may just have small weddings on a Saturday and on a Sunday rather than the full weekend. We'll see how it pans out. I think that a lot of, groups will have to really become a bit more savvy with their marketing strategy. And that really comes down to, scripts, phone calls, how do we work with the client and convert them? It's all sales, it's hard, you know what I mean? And I think that with all the automation integration that I talked about, you can sometimes hide behind the screen and just send out messages. I think that, it's going to be a little more old school. You have to call them up. You're going to have to know more about the clients. We've done some things to really try to get ahead of the clients as far as like when they book a tour. Like we do ask for their social media on Instagram. We connect with them. We kind of see what they're into. You know what I mean? I always stress with my family that like, this is such an emotional business, right? So you have to have an emotional connection with these people. But like it's definitely, you know, I was at a small meetup in Boston a few months ago, and that was a hot topic, was people discussing a bit of a slowdown in signing contracts. And I think it's just, there's going to be more work to be done and more marketing but you know, it's a challenge, but it's something that people should see as an opportunity to learn more so that their business can, you know, be there for the long haul. Which means it's not going to be easy, but if you can if you can endure, then you should do pretty well.
That's really well said. That's really well said. It's awesome. What's your favorite part about running a venue?
The favorite part of running the venue is the day after the wedding's over. Because it's a lot of buildup and it's a lot of time and stress for us too, as the owners, you know, because we really want to serve the clients, you know, we really want to make sure their day is impactful and beautiful. And, you know, it's we have an emotional connection. Like sometimes you shouldn't in business, but we do, you know, it's my parents live there, you know, they're right next there. And so, you know, you mentioned earlier, like, that I keep saying family, and that's actually our motto. Our motto is family comes first. It's on our website. That's our, you know, our business motto, excuse me. And so, you know, it's really, you know, that's the fun part is the event. Like you can't sugarcoat it. There's so much build up to it, and there's so much, you know, stress and anxiety from both sides. But then when it happens and you see the photos and the videos and like you get the hugs and the, you know, thank you cards thereafter, it's worth it for sure.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And I feel like somewhere in there probably is your least favorite part as well. So what is your least favorite part of venue ownership?
I think the least favorite part is it really comes down to just miscommunication, honestly, right? And I'll be a bit technical on this one because I think sometimes it's hard. People have to understand there's so much going on in everyone's lives, right? And something that you put on paper or like a contract per se, like, and the client doesn't read it per se or glazes over it, all that kind of stuff. It's like, I spent like 2 years on this contract to make it simple. And how is it not simple still? You know what I mean? And I think, as time goes on, you kind of, you know, you tough up a bit with that stuff and you just know it's not personal. It's just, they have so much stuff going on. And, you know, I had a client recently call and, you know, it was like a therapy session. They were telling me all their problems and all the things. And at the end of it, I was like, yeah, contract's still the same and the price is still the same. So I'm sorry about all that stuff, but yeah, you know, and, I think that's something that we can, it comes up again and again in our weekly meetings as a family. And, you know, we just try to get ahead of it, right? We just, you know, even like we talked about pricing at one point, but even like communication, like rather than maybe like signing and waiting 6 months before a wedding, like signing and speaking once a month or, you know, and depending on some people every week, you know, just so that there's a sense of hand holding and not just you know, you sign our contract, see you later, we'll see you the day of the wedding. I think that sometimes that is not the best strategy. And sometimes it's the only strategy based off of, you know, how the business is. Cause a lot of people with these businesses, you know, in the wedding industry, it's not their full-time job. And so, you know, I've met many venue owners where this is a part-time thing and, you know, it's I go to my 9 to 5 and then from 7 till 10, I'm doing this, you know? So, miscommunication is always difficult, but, you know, we work hard to make it easier and, you know, sometimes have to swallow our pride.
Yeah. So true. So true. Yeah. That resonates a lot. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience with venue ownership and like how you run Bluebird Farm with your family. And I'm excited for people to not only check out this podcast and check out your story, but also learn more about the venue, you know, and if they want to do that, where's the best place for them to connect with you?
Yeah. So, I mean, the best way to get to us is like social media or our website, you know, bluebirdfarmct.com. That's the website. The email is weddings@bluebirdfarmct.com. I'm sure you'll link all this stuff in the description of the video podcast here for folks. You know, and we're open to talking with people too and helping along the way. Like we're very much collaborative and we want to make, you know, if there's a question that's really burning you and, you know, you need help, you know, we're here to say, jump on that phone call we try to pay it forward. You know what I mean?
That's huge. That's awesome. Joe, thank you so much again for your time. This makes a big difference in the community. And yeah, this is really cool. I'm excited for you guys to finish out this season and head into your next.
Thanks so much. It was a blast.
Hey friends, Jonathan here, and I wanted to share about Common Sense Events consulting packages. If you are a venue owner and you're struggling with your marketing, your sales, your operations, or maybe there's just, you're new to the industry and you want to really have a leg up and get a jump start on getting your business going and not make a lot of the mistakes that oftentimes people make, the mistakes that we made, frankly, when we first started, we would love to chat with you and see if there's a way that we can serve you. Our team has experience working with over 10 venues all across the United States, doing consulting. We've hosted hundreds and hundreds of weddings at this point, and we know what it takes to be successful. If this sounds interesting to you, we would love to chat with you. You can either reach out by filling out the link in the description of the video or podcast, or you can just email us at venues@cseventservices.com, and we would love to chat with you and see if there's a way that we can serve you. All right, back to the show.